it's been on its last legs for a while. I mean, the Ukrainians, again, we just have to give credit where credit is due. Every Russian officer I've spoken to, every Russian soldier that's fighting them, has never said anything bad about the fighting capabilities of the Ukrainian soldiers. In fact, many of them are just shocked about the fact that the Ukrainians will die before they surrender. They make the fighting very, very difficult, especially in an urban environment where, traditionally, if you had people down in the basement and they know they're going to die, the white flag will come out and you can bring them out. The Ukrainians say, nope, you got to come in and kill us. And then the Russians do, but this takes time. It complicates things. So the Russians, are in a very tough fight, but the Ukrainians have reached the point of no return. They can't undo the damage that's been done. They're going to lose this war. They can't change that. There's nothing the West can do to change that. So now the question is just how do you want Ukraine to collapse? And that's the big question right now: is at what point in time does the West step in? When will the Ukrainian government be ready to admit what needs to be done to resolve this situation? Because some very difficult decisions have to be made, but they can't be avoided, and they're going to have to be made soon, such as, giving all the territory to Russia that Russia has demanded so far, demilitarization, things of that nature.
Scott Ritter's analysis provides a stark assessment of the Ukraine conflict, offering insights into the bravery of Ukrainian soldiers, the limits of Western support, and the grim choices facing Ukraine as it approaches inevitable collapse. In today's video, we'll explore the multifaceted dynamics of this war. 1. The remarkable determination of Ukrainian forces. 2. The irreversible damage to Ukraine's military infrastructure. 3. The role and limitations of Western aid. 4. Historical parallels and lessons from other conflicts. 5. The geopolitical implications of Ukraine's collapse. 6. The tough decisions Ukraine and its allies must confront. 7. What the future holds for the region and the global balance of power. Let's dive in. The courage of Ukrainian soldiers in the face of overwhelming odds has captured global attention. As Ritter noted, even Russian soldiers commend their opponents' resolve. In urban warfare, where battles are fought block by block, Ukrainian defenders have shown a willingness to fight to the last man. This defiance has frustrated Russian advances, forcing them to commit more resources and extend the timeline of their operations. But where does this determination come from? Historically, such resistance is rooted in a deep sense of national identity. For Ukraine, this war is not just about territory. It's a fight for survival as a sovereign nation. Yet, while heroic, this strategy has devastating consequences. High casualty rates. Urban warfare exacts a heavy toll, with many Ukrainian units suffering near total losses. Resource depletion. Every battle drains ammunition, equipment, and manpower that cannot be replaced quickly. This strategy, while inspiring, is unsustainable. Ukraine's military infrastructure has been systematically dismantled. Key factors contributing to this include targeted strikes. Russia's focus on destroying supply lines, ammunition depots, and energy grids has crippled Ukraine's ability to sustain prolonged operations. Attritional warfare. The relentless grind of battles in regions like Bakhmut and Zaporizhia has left Ukrainian forces depleted. To understand the significance of this, we must consider the basics of modern warfare. A military's effectiveness depends not just on the bravery of its soldiers, but also on its ability to maintain supply chains, repair damaged equipment, and reinforce depleted units. Ukraine is now facing a scenario where its air defenses are stretched thin, allowing more Russian strikes to penetrate. Its armored units are being destroyed faster than they can be replaced. Its industrial base, already limited, has been further diminished by the war. This is why Ritter describes the situation as the point of no return. Western aid has been crucial in sustaining Ukraine's resistance. The U.S. and its allies have provided billions in military and economic assistance, including advanced weapons systems like HIMARS and Patriot missiles. However, this support has its limits. Training and integration challenges. Many of the advanced systems require extensive training, which takes time Ukraine doesn't have. Production bottlenecks. Western nations face delays in manufacturing and delivering critical equipment. Political fatigue. Public support for endless aid is waning in countries like Germany, the US, and the UK. Ritter's assessment highlights a critical point. Western aid cannot alter the fundamental dynamics of the conflict. Ukraine's strategic disadvantages, its smaller population, weaker economy, and diminished industrial base, cannot be overcome by external assistance alone. To understand the trajectory of the Ukraine war, we can draw lessons from similar conflicts. Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, despite massive U.S. support, South Vietnam ultimately fell to the north due to systemic weaknesses and lack of popular support. Syria, 2011, present, external support for various factions prolonged the conflict but failed to resolve it, leading to immense suffering and geopolitical instability. World War II's Eastern Front. The Soviet Union's ability to sustain heavy losses while replenishing resources contrasts starkly with Ukraine's limited capacity to do so. These parallels illustrate a key lesson. No amount of external support can compensate for fundamental imbalances in resources and strategy. If Ukraine collapses, the ripple effects will be felt far beyond its borders. Some of the key geopolitical consequences include a stronger Russia. Victory would solidify Russia's influence in Eastern Europe and embolden it on the global stage. NATO's credibility at stake. A Ukrainian defeat would raise questions about NATO's ability to defend its allies and project power. Shifts in global alliances. Countries in the global south may increasingly align with Russia and China, viewing them as alternatives to Western dominance. As Ritter highlights, Ukraine and its allies must soon confront painful realities. The following scenarios are likely. Negotiated settlement. Ukraine may be forced to cede territory and agree to demilitarization to end the war. Prolonged resistance. Continuing the fight could lead to further devastation but delay an inevitable defeat. Western withdrawal. If public opinion turns decisively against the war, Western nations may scale back their support, leaving Ukraine even more vulnerable. These decisions are not just about military strategy. They're about the survival of a nation and the integrity of an alliance. Looking ahead, the outcome of the Ukraine war will shape European security. Eastern European nations may seek to strengthen their defenses, anticipating further Russian aggression. Energy markets. A prolonged conflict will continue to disrupt global energy supplies, especially in Europe. China's role. As a key Russian ally, China could use the conflict to expand its influence in Eurasia and challenge Western dominance. Ritter's remarks invite a broader discussion about the human and economic costs of prolonged conflicts. Wars like the one in Ukraine often leave nations devastated for generations. For Ukraine, rebuilding after the war will require immense international assistance, even if peace is achieved. Similarly, the West must grapple with its own role. How much responsibility does it bear for encouraging Ukraine to resist, knowing the odds? The Ukraine war is at a critical juncture. Scott Ritter's analysis underscores the bravery of Ukrainian soldiers, the limits of Western aid, and the grim reality of an unwinnable conflict. As Ukraine's collapse looms, its leaders and Western allies must confront difficult choices. The decisions made in the coming months will not only determine Ukraine's fate, but also reshape the global order. For now, one thing is clear. The time for illusions is over. The world must face the hard truths of this war and work toward an end that minimizes further suffering. According to Scott Ritter, it's been on its last leg for a while. The Ukrainians, again, we just have to give credit where credit is due. Every Russian officer I've spoken to, every Russian soldier that's fighting them, has never said anything bad about the fighting capabilities of the Ukrainian soldiers. In fact, many of them are just shocked about the fact that the Ukrainians will die before they surrender. They make the fighting very, very difficult, especially in an urban environment. Traditionally, if you had people down in a basement and they knew they were going to die, the white flag would come out. You'd bring them out. The Ukrainians say no. You've got to come in and kill us. And then the Russians do. But this takes time. It complicates things. The Russians are in a very tough fight. But the Ukrainians have reached the point of no return. They can't undo the damage that's been done. They're going to lose this war. They can't change it, and there's nothing the West can do to change that. So now the question is, how does Ukraine collapse? That's the big question right now. At what point in time does the West step in? When will the Ukrainian government admit what needs to be done to resolve this situation? Some very difficult decisions have to be made, decisions that can't be avoided. They're going to have to be made soon, such as giving all the territory to Russia that Russia has demanded so far, demilitarization, and things of that nature. Thanks for watching.